I double majored in mass communications and multimedia, and I began in 2003 and I finished in 2007. My current job is a creative director at a company called Scott James Advertising, and it's actually my company. I'm the Scott in Scott James Advertising. Being the creative director of any company is going to have some similar, I guess, roles or sort of tasks. You're kind of mixed with the hands-on work of actually doing things. So building websites or developing graphics or text or any sort of content, sort of that hands-on approach to work. But you're also probably going to be managing people as well. And when you manage people, you have to manage budgets, both time budgets and money budgets, which are sort of dictated either by the company that you're working for or the client that you're working for. Being a creative director, the role of creative director in my job is all of that, but it's also because it is my own company. I'm responsible for my own business development, basically. So if I need to get more clients, or I need to service new clients or new areas or new industries or whatever it happens to be, not only am I managing myself and my own work, my own hands-on work, my my team, the people that I manage, I have to sort of manage my own business as well, and it's sometimes not as creative and fun, when you have to do when you have to balance your books, and when you have to do your payroll and you have to do your expenses for the month. Like you have to be the accountant as well. Links between my career path today and sort of what I'm doing today and what I did at McMaster in humanities, in terms of transferable skills like critical thinking, that's for sure. I think critical thinking is one of these skills that you can sometimes take for granted. You really need to understand how to look beyond a question or look beyond a problem into a little bit more depth. You sort of have to take a deeper dive than sort of the surface level stuff, and I think critical thinking really does that. It really trains your brain to not just kind of accept the information that you get right away. You slow down a little bit. You sort of take the time to digest it and then come up with an understanding of maybe what's the bigger picture here. But in terms of hard skill, like hands-on, what I would say humanities did for me in terms of hard skills is that it gives you a starting point. It gives you a jumping off point. Let's say with the multimedia program at McMaster, it's impossible for them to teach you everything. They can't. The one thing that you have to understand is that you aren't going to learn everything you need to know at school, but you're going to learn how to learn, and you're going to learn how to start to learn, or where to start to learn. First, technology is always changing. It's constantly changing, and trends are also changing too. So the thing is if you're going to go down this sort of path and go down this career path, you really have to be able to keep up and teach yourself and constantly, let's say, self-educate. And you have to learn by doing with a lot of these things. Like, for example, you're not going to learn PHP by reading a book. You're going to learn PHP by writing PHP code. You're not going to learn CSS by reading a book, right? You're going to learn by doing. You're going to get some skills by reading those books, but you have to do it. So I think what I learned from multimedia, let's say at McMaster, is how to approach things, how to think about things, where to find information, how to quickly find information, how to use that information. But the biggest thing is what you need to understand is that it doesn't stop when you leave McMaster. That's actually really just the starting point, because you're going to be really a beginner in a lot of those things. The best parts about my job, because I own my own business, is the time. It's completely flexible. It's really nice to set your own hours. So I would have to say the best part about my job and running my own business is the flexibility of time. The worst thing about my job is actually still the best thing. It's the flexibility of hours. When you are your own boss, or when you set your own hours, and this could be, you could be running your own business, or you could be a consultant, if you work on a consultancy basis where maybe you telecommute, or you don't actually have to go into an office. The worst part about your job is flexible time as well, because you don't have set hours and you have to self-motivate. You really have to be disciplined. So sometimes that's really hard to do every day. But if you do it enough and if you remind yourself, you sort of, let's say if you work from home, you really have to have a space where that's where you work. So I'd say the worst part of the job is actually the best part of the job is the flexible time. It's great, but it's also, it can be killer too if you let it sort of overrun your day. Number one thing that university taught me was social interaction and networking skills. You can't go through life without them. How you interact socially and how you network with your peers and your friends and your colleagues and even your professors. These are people that you want to keep in contact with. You might need them down the road. So always keep that in mind. It's definitely something that you can practice, and it's definitely something that you need to do. So I would say university actually helped me do that, sort of helped me understand the importance of networking, because you need to do it, especially with projects that you work on in groups. You need to understand group dynamics and how to sort of work with these people and sort of work to that common goal. The way to prepare for a career in my line of work, which is sort of marketing and advertising, is you really have to have a portfolio. It's really tough in this industry to sort of knock on the door of a company and ask for a job with just a resume. You need to stand out, and because this industry is so visual, so whether or audible, or if you do video, or if you do music, if you do audio production, video production, right? If you're a web developer, if you're a programmer, if you're a graphic designer, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're in the marketing or advertising or creative industry in general, you have to have a portfolio. Keep good track of what you're doing, your visuals, your code, everything that you're doing, keep it with you. Never throw anything out, always save it. And then as you go through school, or as you finish school, you need to keep doing more work. You need to keep finding work to do. So you might have to do, what I've seen a lot of people do is fake portfolios, right? And it's not fake in the sense that you're copying other people. You're creating stuff. You might design a business card for an imaginary company. That's doing something. That's designing something. That's something you can put in your portfolio. You need to do that, or you need to do some pro bono stuff. You need to volunteer. You need to just get work, paid or unpaid. My advice to anybody finishing university and sort of going off into the working world is to at least have some goal in mind as to what you want to do. And it can be a short-term goal, it could be a medium-term, it could be a long-term. As you're going along the way, so you're trying to get to that goal, is to appreciate what's sort of happening around you at the time that it's happening. I think sometimes we get too caught up in, I want to make X amount of money by the time I'm 30 years old, and I need to do this, this, and this to meet that goal. And I think sometimes we forget about what's happening in the present moment, where you are right now and what you're doing and who you're interacting with and what you're learning is so important. And I think sometimes it's easy to get lost in what is that end goal, and you sometimes forget about the things that you've learned or that you are currently learning, and you sort of don't appreciate where you are right now. And the things that you're doing in sort of the present moment might actually change some of those goals. So it's okay for those goals to change too. You might set yourself a certain goal to attain, but maybe it doesn't pan out, and maybe it's actually for the better. So don't sort of hold on to sort of these idealistic goals, because I'll tell you something. When you're in your late teens, early 20s, the way you think and your goals, I guarantee you, are going to change when you get to your 30s. Your life experience and your work experience and your professional and personal experiences are going to shape you, and they're going to continue to shape you. Be confident, but also be humbled by the experience of others.